Hey, buddy, y'all doing all right? Good, good, good. It's good to see y'all here. All this weeks we have been talking about politics and the election. It's really close. It's closer now than it has ever been during this cycle. And we've been talking about the policies of both candidates. This weekend, I want to spend more time on the economy because I think that is going to affect you all more than gays and abortion and immigration, foreign affairs, maybe even crime. The economy. I think they coined the phrase, the economy stupid. Hey, Alexa, who said the economy stupid? I'd like to know. She's not going to tell me. I'll Google it.
You good. Don't stop.
Bass.
It's the show that will get you thinking, and where the topics are hot. Feel free to comment whether we agree or not, 'cause he's got something to say.
Sirwalterj. Sirwalterj.
He's got something to say. Sirwalterj.
Reporting live 7 days a week, always on time, but his time is not free. Sirwalterj, always on fleek. Latest trending topics had you jumping out your seat.
He's got something to say.
Come on in. The water's fine.
Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj Jones Show. I'm here. It is the weekend edition, baby. Come on in. The water's fine. Water's fine. I'm still doing whatever I'm doing, but I didn't want to let a day go by without showing you all some things about the economy. My comment section is not working. We are live, but my comment section is not working on this screen. It's only working on the monitor over here, so I do see comments, but I don't want to be over here because it's rude to be looking over here and talking to you all. So the coined phrase, it's the economy stupid, was Jim Carville. It's a phrase that he, in 1992, is often quoted from a televised quip by Carville as, it's the economy stupid. Carville was a strategist in Bill Clinton's successful 1992 presidential election against Bush. His praise were directed at the campaign's workers and intended as one of the three messages for them to focus on. And the others were change versus more of the same, and don't forget health care. Let's see if there's a picture of Carville. You all know him. There he is. And he does his YouTube channel, podcast, and he's not as young as he looks here. He always freaked me out with his look, but he's still doing what he does. All right, so the economy is very important to all of us because that is what's going to affect us. And so that's why I want to spend more time with the economy more so than all of this other stuff that is distracting us. We are highly divided based off of the things that are distracting us that won't even, it doesn't, most of us, it won't even affect us whatsoever. Not saying that those other things are not important, but it's just that over the next 4 years, whoever becomes the president, you all are either going to blame them for how your money flow in your house, or you are going to give them credit for how your money flow in your house. So my job is to educate you on all the aspects of the economy so that when you do vote, some of you have already voted. Well, praise God, I'm glad you did that. But for those of you who are going to vote on November the 5th, you will make an educated guess on which one of these are going to help you as far as generational wealth is concerned. For my channel is a teaching channel, and we teach a lot about generational wealth, not just financially, but also spiritually. And the total man, because we don't want anybody to be sick either. And so I'm going to we're going to watch some videos today. Consider this movie Friday fireside chat, and we'll go through three newscasts, ABC, CNN, and maybe another one to see how things are lining up with both Trump and Kamala. We're going to start with Trump. Trump owes more money today than he ever did. This is the title of this is Trump is almost $2 billion in debt, and the amount is growing. And the reason why I'm playing this is because you all are getting ready to vote for a man who is in deep debt. Notice I have not brought up the 34, criminal charges and what have you. I haven't brought up none of that from for this whole cycle. I haven't even talked about the rape allegations and none of that. This is my first time mentioning that because it matters, but I just don't like to get pulled in with those shock jocks who are on YouTube. That stuff it's hopefully there will be justice in those things. But I want to play this video because he is in debt, and who would hire a CFO for a corporation when the CFO is in debt, deep debt? You see, because what's going to happen is you're going to hire this man for your company, and he's going to embezzle the hell out of that company. He's going to patent his pockets and fill his coffers so that he can pay off his debts. So some businesses, some corporations, some entities won't even bring you in to partnership with them until they do a financial background check on you. I'm telling you what I know. There are some churches who will not consider you as a trustee on the board unless you have ownership of a home and it's not upside down and you are at least making $100,000. And I think they are right to to consider these things. Unfortunately, Congress, you can be anything and be voted into Congress, and you can be anything and voted in as the president of the United States. This is how backwards the United States is. A great corporation, one of the greatest corporations in the world, the United States, and our hiring practice on the very top is as more, it is less. McDonald's would not have hired Donald Trump to do what he did. McDonald's wouldn't hire him to do what he did. Go in there and make some fries. But the United States would hire him as the CEO of the 300 million. Really amazing, y'all. It's really amazing.
Donald Trump's ballooning debt. A new Forbes breakdown of his finances shows Trump owes more than $1.8 billion, a number that's actually exploded just since he left the White House. Out front now, Forbes senior editor Dan Alexander, who's been pouring through Trump's finances. So, Dan, a lot of this debt actually comes from legal judgments, $454 million to the state of New York after being found liable for fraud. And he's actually racking up millions more in interest. Walk us through what else is there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The biggest one is that 454 plus the interest, you get to 482. Then you go to his real estate portfolio. He has 360 against a tower in San Francisco. Many of these buildings have lots of debt on them. But there's also the E. Jean Carroll case, two cases where he lost and it was ordered to pay $88.5 million. Interest is also accruing on that. So if you put those two legal judgments together, just those things alone, you're at about $575 million. And then you have all of the real estate stuff on top of that.
So let's say even if case is under appeal, right? So there's a chance that changes. So if we put that aside, the legal judgments, you've been mentioning the real estate business. What really stands out to you most in terms of the debt there?
The one that I think will be potentially most troublesome for Trump is connected to 40 Wall Street. So he has $118 million of debt against that building. And his leasehold interest in the building, we estimate, is only worth $116 million. So it looks like the building is a little bit underwater. And that debt comes due in July of next year. So he's got to figure out a solution here pretty quickly. There are two options. One is he could go find a bank to refinance the loan. But banks are going to be pretty skeptical of refinancing an old, aging office building where the occupancy is going down since COVID. Or he can pay for it himself. He has about $400 million in cash. Also, these legal judgments hanging over his head. Does he really want to tie up, say, $120 million paying off this debt? That's going to be tough for him to do. But in any case, he's going to have to figure out some solution here as he's rounding the corner into 2025.
So he talks a lot about just how much cash he has. Bottom line, does he actually have enough cash to cover these debts?
You know, the big question is whether or not he sells off shares of the Trump Media and Technology Group. This is the parent company to Truth Social. Mm-hmm. Right now, he has about $410 million in cash, but he has $1.8 billion in liabilities. So he's going to have to sell something. And those shares right now they move a ton, but today are worth over $4 billion. That makes up the majority of his fortune right now. If he sells a big chunk of those, especially if it's before the election when people are really excited about it and it's trading really high, he could easily pocket $500 million, $1 billion, and then he wouldn't have to worry about debt concerns at all. If instead he hangs on to them, then he might be in trouble.
What are the chances, though, of that happening?
Of him selling, you never know. I mean, it would, from a business perspective, it would make sense for him to sell them. Okay, this is a guy who needs cash, and he's got a huge asset, and these are liquid shares. He should sell these from strictly a business perspective. Also, he can sell a big portion of his shares and still hang on to a big portion of the company. So it just makes a lot of sense. But it would send the signal that he's not fully behind it, maybe he doesn't fully believe in it, and Donald Trump doesn't like to project weakness. So how do you predict how Donald Trump's ego plays into all of that? That's a very difficult question to answer.
Wow, how is his ego going to play into that? That's a very difficult question. So here are the numbers, and the numbers have been crushed. Now, I've got you all's comments here, so I'll have to look at it on my phone. And some of you will go in the comment section and say, hey, okay, yeah, but that's CNN. Man, the deflection is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Do you actually think that Fox News or Newsmax is going to give us his real numbers? Do you actually think that they're going to do that? How many of y'all think that they're going to be fair and balanced and tell y'all how much he's in debt? Anybody? All right. Let's go here.
The broadest measure of the economy is strong. GDP growth
plays into all of
that.
Now
let's go into the economy.
Very difficult question to answer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and fascinating that some of these zones, including the one you mentioned, 40 Wall Street, coming up next summer. That is a lot to think about. Really appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
The Wall Street Journal notes that whoever wins the presidential race, they will inherit a pretty impressive economy. The broadest measure of the economy is strong. GDP grew at an annualized rate of 2.8% in the third quarter. You have to remember back in 2020, Donald Trump warned the stock market would tank if voters elected President Biden. Well, the S&P returns under the Biden administration, they've been pretty huge. Let's get to CNN's Matt E.
You heard that? Donald Trump said when he lost that Biden is going to rip the economy apart, and he focused on Wall Street. But let me tell you something. Wall Street has been good to me under the Biden administration. My brother Larry became a millionaire under the Biden administration because of Wall Street. And a couple of our friends and associates, there's 3 black men who frequent the show. They are multimillionaires, and it happened under the Biden administration. Do you understand? So you all might be asking, why you not voting for Kamala Harris? It's a bigger picture than you know, because here's the thing. When you all are relying on the president to really pump up the economy, you're looking at the wrong guy. Did you not watch yesterday's show? The president can only do so much about the economy because there's Main Street and there's Wall Street. And there's the people. So when it comes to self-responsibilities, education on how the economy works and how finances work and how the market works, the president sits back and watches it and then takes credit for what you all did on Wall Street. Anybody understand that? You're rallying around the wrong entity.
For the latest on this, good morning, sir.
Good morning, John. Look, it's been a blockbuster 4 years for the stock market under President Biden. The S&P 500 has surged almost 70% since Election Day 2020. Now, all of these big gains have boosted the value of millions of Americans' retirement plans, their college savings plans, their investment portfolios. And this stands out to me for two reasons. One, it's coming at a time when many people have real frustrations with the underlying real American economy. It's also the exact opposite of what former President Trump had predicted would happen. Back in July of 2020, then President Trump tweeted, if you want your 401ks and stocks to disintegrate and disappear, vote for the radical left, do-nothing Democrats, and corrupt Joe Biden. Massive tax hikes. They will make you poor very fast. Now, that was quite the damning statement from Trump, who more than any of his predecessors really looked at the market as a real-time barometer of how he was doing. And at the time of that tweet, Trump was enjoying the second best market performance that any president has had in modern history. But what ended up happening was the Biden market has actually surpassed the Trump stock market. So what we found is that under Biden, the S&P 500 has enjoyed compound annual growth of about 14% since Election Day. That is the second best that any president has had since 1945. That's according to CFRA research. And the only one that was stronger, and I think you can see it from that chart, was Bill Clinton during the booming 1990s and the dot-com bubble. Now, these strong gains under Biden, they reflect the fact that we had low unemployment. We've had this rapid recovery from COVID and, of course, the boom from AI. But we should note that the market was really strong under Trump as well. He also had low unemployment for most of his term. Very low inflation, and those 2017 tax cuts really boosted corporate profits. But it is really remarkable to see that the Biden market has been historically strong at a time when a lot of people are frustrated with the economy. John?
Important to note that, and also important when you look at that chart, stock markets generally go up. It's an argument. It's an argument for blue chips right there, Matt.
Generally go up. So for those of you who are on the conservative right, far right, because I'm conservative, I'm just not far right. I'm more centrist than anything. The fact that you all are complaining and going against me for showing y'all these stats and because it's on CNN, this reminds me of a drunk brother. I don't have one, but I'm using this as an example. And we can't do anything with him. He's in and out. We're trying to get him into rehab, and we're trying to get him the help that he needs. And so the family comes together to have an intervention. We right now on the Sirwalterj Jones Show are having an intervention for you and showing you that you can't even see that you're trying to support not so much a party, but one individual, because your vote is for an individual, not just for the party. Your vote is for an individual. You can't even see that you are coddling and you are enabling another drunk. And we're having an intervention for you, and you is like, I can stop when I want to. That's what's going on right now. We're giving you national stats of how the market was operating. And you telling us, So then there is, I put this on Patreon because Sunday night movie night is going to be on finances, by the way. For about an hour, we're going to watch a movie, I think one of the great documentaries on how your money works, the origins of money in America and around the world, and pulling the money off of the gold standard. We're going to look at a movie on that this weekend, and then we'll try to shut down all of this economy stuff.
The economy, inflation is mostly back to normal, they say, but when you talk to people,
I'll skip around because this is on Patreon, by the way.
They aren't feeling that. There's a still strong concern about the economy.
Housing, taxes, and inflation are just some of the concerns both campaigns are amplifying as the presidential race enters the home stretch. And when it comes to the latest ABC News Ipsos poll, more Americans trust former President Trump over Vice President Harris.
Did y'all hear that? More Americans trust Trump on the economy. So, if Donald Trump wins, it's because many people voted for him because they trust him on the economy. Even though the economy is better under Biden for almost 4 years, they still believe, this is all about the feeling, they believe that they will do better under Trump because they feel that they could buy things under Trump. Things were cheaper. Of course things were cheaper. Things were cheaper 4 years prior to that. Things were cheaper 4 years prior to that. And things get more expensive as we continue to live longer. Things get more expensive, but you also make more money too, depending on your company. You make more money, or you're more greedy. You spend more because you make more, you see. So, man, it is just amazing the ignorance of the American people by saying, I want to go back to Egypt.
Handle the economy. And joining us now is business reporter Alexis Christophers to break it all down for us. Good to see you.
Hi, guys. Good to see you.
Yeah, so a lot of people are worried about taxes and inflation. So how do both candidates stack up?
You know, that same poll found that 90% of Americans say the economy is their number one issue heading to the polls this year. So you mentioned taxes and tariffs. Let's get right to it. So Trump, when he was president, enacted these tax cuts in 2017. They're going to expire at the end of next year. If they're allowed to expire, more than 60% of Americans will see their taxes actually go up. So Trump has said he wants to extend those tax cuts or make some of them even permanent. He also wants to eliminate the $10,000 cap on state and local tax deductions. He actually put that cap in place. Now he wants to roll it back. And he wants to cut corporate taxes to 15% from the current 21% rate. Now, as for Harris, she hasn't said if she's going to.
That may be a problem. Cutting corporate tax rate, 15%. Y'all may say that's good. Keep taxing not just the rich, but tax the corporation. Let me tell y'all, that is a bad idea. Well, cutting the rate is a good idea. I'm getting ready to go to Harris.
Extend those Trump tax cuts. But like Biden, she says no tax hikes for people making $400,000 or less. She also wants to give the middle class more tax cuts. So in the way of an expanded child tax credit, for instance, you see they're up by triple, $6,000. And she wants the wealthier Americans and corporations to pay more in taxes. She wants to raise the corporate tax rate to 28%.
28% on corporate tax. Y'all about to lose your job. You all who were voting for Harris, if she can get that thing in, because it's because a lot of this stuff can't happen until Congress approves it, which means it depends on what you did in the midterm. All right, 28% hike on corporate tax. Oh, y'all about to lose your jobs.
How do you pay for all these tax cuts? We don't know for sure. They haven't been super clear, although Trump has said he wants to do it with tariffs. He's called it the most beautiful word in the dictionary. We don't know if he's really going to implement these tariffs he's talking about, but look at his last administration. When he did this, steel prices went up in the U.S. Also, a number of countries retaliated and didn't buy our agricultural products. That forced farmers into tough times, and we had to give them a lot of federal funding. So,
see, tariffs. That whole tariff thing, which is what he's running on this next his next run, but he's going to double and triple up his tariff. What's the word I want to lose? It's tariff threats against China. It hurt the farmers when he was a president because he put the tariffs on, and it hurt them, and we had to bail them out. If he's able to do what what he wants to do with tariffs, oh my God, y'all gonna have to start driving Uber and Lyft and making DoorDash deliveries while you're working in your 12 hours on your job in order to afford to survive.
This time around, Trump is saying he wants 20% across the board tariffs, 60% or more on Chinese imports, and up to 2,000% on foreign cars crossing the Mexican border. What does that look like? A Toyota RAV4. You want to go out and buy a new one right now, about $30,000. If it's slapped with a 100% tariff and that's passed along to consumers, which, by the way, usually happens, you're looking at a $60,000 Toyota RAV. As for Harris, has not really come out with a tariff plan per se. She calls Trump's plan a sales tax on Americans, the Trump sales tax. Like Biden, though, she will probably keep some of the tariffs that Trump put on Chinese imports. In fact, they've even raised them in some instances. And she says she will not tolerate unfair trade practices.
We keep hearing that the economy is doing well, but when you talk to regular people, there's this real disconnect there. So I'm curious how these candidates are tackling those, important pocketbook issues that affect you and me, like housing, healthcare, those basic costs of living.
You hit it, housing. It's continuing to take a huge bite out of our budgets, and it's a big driver of inflation. So let's break this down for you. Trump, he says he wants to lessen regulations for builders, which he says will overall lessen costs. He wants to open up federal land for home construction, and he wants to ban undocumented immigrants from getting mortgages. He said that will mean less competition for homes and should lower prices. Harris, she wants to help first-time home buyers, up to $25,000 in down payment support, $10,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers. She wants to set aside 3 million new affordable housing units as well. And you mentioned health care. So Trump has no official plan. When during the debate here at ABC, he said he had a concept of a plan. We don't really know what that is. He does, though, want private insurance and the government to mandate coverage for IVF, in vitro fertilization. He wants to bar federal funding for gender reassignment surgeries. As for Harris, she wants to continue what the Biden administration has been doing, that $35 cap on insulin, $2,000 cap on out-of-pocket spending for prescription drugs, and she wants to extend those enhanced subsidies that we have for the Affordable Care Act. We know that Trump tried to repeal and replace ACA, and he failed. No talk of doing that next time.
So what are the chances that these proposals will be enacted, and what's the price tag?
Right. Big questions. The fact of the matter is a lot of those proposals need Congress to make them happen. So if we have a divided Congress, many of these things may not see the light of day.
Right.
And you want to talk about scary here on Halloween? Both agendas are going to add trillions to our national debt. Economists say Harris's proposal would probably add about $4 trillion. Trump's about double that.
Oh.
And we all should care about the national debt because, it could mean higher interest rates and slower growth for us in the years to come.
It affects us all.
Absolutely.
And nothing's free.
Wow, did y'all hear that? Her plan is going to add $4. No matter who the president is, no matter what their policies is and plans for the economy, it's going to add $1 trillion to the economy. We already know that. We're already in the mid-30s trillion. But hers going to add $4 trillion. Here's going to double. And y'all still can't see this? It's scary. I got one more. This is about a 12-minute piece. Much more dangerous than people realize is the quote here. The Economist on Trump's risks. All right.
Vice President Kamala.
Okay. Now, this right here, this is good because this is going to show the fair and balancedness of those pundits and news sources and what have you. All right. And the economists who decided to support Kamala because they didn't want to support Trump. So it wasn't that Kamala was their pick. It's just that they compared the two and they realized that Trump would be a much worse pick for the economy. They wish they had a third choice. But we are, unfortunately in America, we have a two-party system, which is why we're so jacked up, because there's only two parties. That's a mess.
And earlier I mentioned The Economist, which has formally issued an endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris for president. The Economist writes in part, quote, while some newspapers refused to back a presidential candidate this year, today The Economist is endorsing Kamala Harris. Tens of millions of Americans will vote for Mr. Trump next week. Some will be true believers, but many will take a calculated risk that in office his worst instincts would be constrained. We see that as recklessly complacent. By making Mr. Trump leader of the free world, Americans would be gambling with the economy, the rule of law, and international peace. Ms. Harris's shortcomings, by contrast, are ordinary, and none of them are disqualifying.
Did you see that? Kamala Harris' shortcomings, by contrast, are ordinary. When I told y'all that if the Democratic Party wins, it will be 4 more years of the ordinary. You're going to benefit from some things here and there, but it's not going to be so spectacular as what Trump is trying to bring. And that spectacularness is not something that's going to be nice. So you're basically going to be like, oh, okay, you're going to change your car from a Cadillac to, I don't know, an Oldsmobile. Same tires. You just look different.
If The Economist had a vote, we would cast it for her. Let's bring in editor-in-chief of The Economist, Zanny Minton-Beddoes. Zanny, it's great to have you back on the show. The Economist has been endorsing candidates since 1980. Was there any discussion about not endorsing at this moment in time? And why did The Economist make the pretty blistering collective editorial that it did against Donald Trump?
So great to join you again. No, there was never a question that we would not do an endorsement. We have done, as you said, we've done an endorsement every presidential election since 1980. We write endorsements for many other countries' elections too. And in the US, we've endorsed Republicans in the past and Democrats. We are non-partisan. We are really beholden only to our traditional English liberal values that we were founded like 180 years ago to champion: free markets, individual freedom, and so forth. And every week, as you know, we write editorials offering advice to political leaders around the world on policies. And it would be weird, therefore, for us to decide not to endorse a candidate. And so I had no doubt that we were going to endorse. And every time we have a similar approach, which is quite different to US publications. We convene all of our journalists in a room and we have a long discussion. And I always ask somebody to make the best possible case for both candidates. And we did that this time. We did it a week ago because I was in the Middle East earlier this week. And we had a very long, detailed discussion about what people thought. And then I kind of framed the editorial. A colleague of mine wrote it, and it was a collective effort. And it's one that brings all of our journalists together. Ultimately, it's obviously my responsibility, but this has nothing to do with anybody outside our journalism. We're truly independent, and we believe that there's no contradiction between having a view and an opinion and being independent.
Zanny, I read the editorial, and it seems to be more a case against Donald Trump than it is a case for Kamala Harris. So make the case against Donald Trump, in particular the comparison you make with 2016 and how the world is different now and how...
Now, listen to this, because this has been my fear. My fear is how we all are voting because we don't like this other guy. It is the enemy of mine enemy is my friend. We would never really pile up with Russia because we have like enemies. We did before. We don't do it today. We did it in World War II, World War I. We piled up with them to go against the German people. But today we would never pile up with them unless Donald Trump is the president who loves Putin. He may pile up with him to go against something. You understand? But what I never liked was that we did something, not because we cared for that thing that we did, but we only did that because we wanted to escape the fire that was behind us. It's like those who were jumping out of the towers in 911. They jumped and they committed suicide, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because if they had stayed on that floor, they would have burned up. So they had to jump out of the window. And I think this is how we are voting. We're voting on one side because we're jumping to save our life. We're jumping maybe, and sometimes we are jumping out of the fire into the frying pan. I will say that. So my disturbedness, if that's a word, for how we've been voting is I'm voting for her because I can't stand this guy. So I'll put up with her. And that's why the two-party system is stupid to me in America. It has been the thing that has really rubbed us in such a negative way, and it has destroyed our democracy by having just a two-party. When all these other parties, and you look at, and I've researched all these other parties, you would think some of those parties are saved, sanctified, and Holy Ghost filled, but they will never get a chance. They've had debates, and you've never seen the debates. Why? We don't spend much time on that because we feel that we got to do something with this guy or this guy. There's no other thing. And then we push our religiosities in that, and then we demonize others who jump in here or jump there when the whole world is our playground. It's sad. All right, so she is going to be truthful and fair to say we are supporting, as economists, Kamala Harris because we can't support Donald Trump. And she was honest to say that because she's mediocre, she's still the better of the two evils. So I get what she said. I don't like it, but I get why they had to do this.
The American guardrails against him are different now.
Yeah, Katie, you're absolutely right. This is really a leader about Donald Trump and the unacceptable risk that we think he poses to America and the world. And the audience that we had in mind when we wrote this was our many readers who are Republicans. We have Republicans and Democrat readers. And we didn't want this to be kind of a grand statement for the history books. We wanted to try and lay out to those readers that we have who are likely to vote for Donald Trump, why we think that he poses a risk. And there are really three sets of reasons. And these are people who I think will have seen in the first Trump term that actually there was a lot of bombast and drama, but the economy did pretty well, and he wasn't as catastrophic as people feared. So I think these are people who probably don't much like him as a person, don't see him as a role model for their kids, but do think that the risks around him may be wildly overblown. And we think they're wrong. And in three broad areas. One, what Donald Trump is promising to do with the economy is way more radical than 2016 and way more dangerous. His tariff policy, his promise to deport millions of undocumented migrants, his reckless tax policy, all of these things we think from just a straight economic perspective are much more dangerous than people realize. Secondly, as Richard Haas just laid out to you, the world is much more dangerous. In 2016, the world was a pretty complicated place, but it was nothing like what we have now, with two wars raging, with a sort of growing axis of evil, or whatever you want to call it, between Iran, North Korea, countries like that, Russia. This is a time when America needs its alliances. And actually, one of the great strengths of the Biden administration has been to rebuild alliances and relationships with countries around the world. And Donald Trump, if one thing we know about him is that he's unpredictable, the other is that he has a total contempt for alliances. So that's the second reason. And then the third reason is that we think he would be much more unconstrained. And there is a real risk that he threatens America's institutions. In 2016, there were a lot of grown-ups around him. This is a well-known argument, but there were grown-ups in the room. This time, we think it is much more likely that it will be kind of toadies, chancers. He will not have the serious grown-ups. And when you have the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who worked with him, his own chief of staff, calling him a fascist, when you have half his cabinet unwilling to support him, these are the kind of references that if you were hiring someone for a job, you would really think twice about hiring someone where you had those references of people who had worked closely with that person before.
Wow. Did y'all hear what she said? There were grown-ups in the room in 2016. We saw them. They were men and women of valor. Even though they might have been conservative, depending on where you are, they still were grown and they had experience. And they bailed on them because they realized, holy cow, what did I get myself into? And everybody who signed up to be a part of his cabinet are now they became like, my whole life is over. My whole life is over because I piled up with this man. So now this new administration, if Donald Trump wins, and let me tell y'all might be laughing, saying he can't because let me tell you, those MAGA folks are going to do their best to show up at those polls. They've already did. Millions of people have already voted, mostly women, by the way. Those MAGAs gonna come out of, you're gonna find that MAGAs gonna come out of every orifice of the bodies of America to vote. And we laughed in 2016. And we laughed and then cried. Y'all cried. I laughed when Donald Trump won. Now this man, this economist, what's his name? Who is predicting that she will win, that she will win. Let me tell you, he predicted 9 out of 10 presidents. What is his name? Lichtig? What is his name? I wrote his name down somewhere. I've showed him on the show the other day. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because he is this close to getting back in that seat. And the Democrats may be helping him with all these gaffes. All these gaffes. It doesn't matter with all of the attacks on the right side. It doesn't matter. America's used to those attacks. The Puerto Ricans are still voting for Trump. Even after the joke. Thank you, Alan Lichtman. Alan Lichtman says Kamala's going to win. Well, I'm not a prophet, but it could. His 9 opposed to 10 is going to turn into 8. All right.
All of that together, and we think it's just an unacceptable risk. Look, I hope if he is elected president that we will be wrong and that those risks don't come to pass. But I think the tail risk of a Trump presidency, hard to quantify, but it's just too big. And so I think Kamala Harris, she may not be great. I'd be delighted if she was, but she may well be a mediocre president. But she does not pose that catastrophic risk.
Zanny, good morning. Let's talk about the economy for a moment. I'm looking at your recent striking cover that says the American economy is the envy of the world with a picture of $100 bills rolled up and blasting off. You say America's economy is bigger and better than ever. We're going to get an unemployment number just a short time from now this morning that many expect from last month to be good for the American economy. We got a GDP number this week that was good for the American economy. Inflation is still too high for many people in this country. Goods cost too much, but that's headed in the right direction as well. So we've heard so much from Trump's side that America is a hellhole, that the country has been destroyed by Joe Biden and by association Kamala Harris. From your point of view, with your expertise and of all the writers at your magazine, what is the state of the American economy heading into Election Day?
Look, the American economy is in an extraordinarily strong place. That's why we put on our cover the envy of the world. It is in an extraordinarily good and strong place. One of the reasons people don't feel that is that there has been this period of very high inflation. And it takes a while for people that scars people, and people just remember how high prices are. And I understand that. But the truth is that relative to other countries, and indeed in absolute terms, the US economy is in a really, really strong place. But at the same time, I worry that that makes people complacent about what are the underlying strengths. It's not a God-given right that the US economy is a strong economy. It depends on having sensible policies as well as the US's natural strengths. A huge, energy endowment, a huge market, liquid capital markets. People want to come invest in America because America has the talent, America has a relatively light regulatory touch, and America is a stable place. And all of those things could be threatened. So I think it's just a mistake to think that you can take for granted American economic strength.
That's good right there. When Barack Obama was leaving office and Trump got in there, he started to dismantle everything that Obama had did. Why? Because Trump is a malignant narcissist who must take credit for everything. Even when somebody else does something, he must take the credit. And so he began to try to dismantle things that Barack Obama put in place so that he can put a replacement in there and to say, I did this. All right. So he tried to kill everything, but he couldn't kill everything. And the main thing he tried to kill was Obamacare, and he couldn't. I remember watching all those Republicans come together right there at the White House and high-fiving each other and talking about how great Donald Trump was, and he's passing the mic. Oh, we got it done, and they couldn't get nothing done. And the man came from out the hospital. Who was that? John McCain. He came there and he did this. It was the greatest sign we had ever seen in American history, and killed the bill. And the Obamacare continued. And he was trying to destroy the things that his own voters were benefiting from, because up and down North Carolina hollers, the West Virginia, back there where the moonshine is, all up in the down there on the turnpikes there in Florida, South Florida especially. That right there, right between Dallas and Houston, down there in the Texas area. All those Republicans who are spread out, they're in the Buffalo Hills, in the red hills of or the black hills of South Dakota, where all those Republicans are. They were benefiting from Obamacare, and he was trying to kill it. They were benefiting from many of the things that Obama put in, because the man that was sitting there was such a narcissist that he needed them to praise him and not praise Obama, because it was called Obamacare, which is another name for it. What is it called? The American something. It's called Obamacare. Obama's name is on it, and Trump could not be sitting in the office with Obama's name hovering over him. So if he gets back in office, he is going to dismantle Biden and Kamala, whatever they got. One thing I do like about the Democratic Party is that they do try to be fair and bring in others from the other side into the administration. Kamala promised that she would bring in a Republican into her cabinet, which Obama tried to do as well, which he did do as well. Republicans typically don't do that, and Trump definitely didn't want to do that. All right, and so the tariffs that Trump had instituted during his administration, Biden did not remove the tariff. He kept it. And he had to keep it. Why? Because tariffs can create jobs. That sounds good, right? But how much do that job cost? The Affordable Care Act. Thank you all. For instance, Trump put in a tariff. Okay? Biden is now in office, and they realize that tariff against China, or who was it against? I forgot who it was against. Let's assume the tariff that was against China, we was paying the taxes on that tariff, all right, which stopped the growth of importing that particular product. So what did the other companies do? The other foreign companies set up their factories in America. Since you all won't import, we're going to set up our factories here in America, and then we're going to hire the American people. Well, that right there, that tariff benefited Americans because a few thousand people got hired. So there goes the jobs. And so monies was made. The problem was it was too costly, because $5 million might have been made by creating new jobs based off of your tariff, but it cost the companies multi-millions to keep it going. So you created a job that cost $5,000, but at the end of the year, because of expenses, it cost you $15 million. You made $5 million, but you spent $15 million a year to maintain it. So he could not get rid of that tariff because jobs were being created, and he had to bite the bullet. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? So if you don't understand the economy, then when y'all are marching in the street and fighting your fellow man over stuff that you don't understand, you're wasting too much energy. All right. I lost my audio. Let's see if I'm going to have to redo it. Hold on. It was 7 minutes in. Hold on. Let's see if I can get my audio back.
You can't.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Stop being impatient.
It certainly can. And
So I think it's just a mistake to think that you can take for granted American economic strength. You can't. It can be messed up.
it certainly can. And that's just to follow up. You look at all the economists, Zanny, that are talking about just how bad Donald Trump's policies would be for working class and middle class Americans, how bad it would be for our businesses. I could go down a long list. You've seen it. You've seen the overwhelming majority of economists saying how he could wreck our economy. On the other side, I do want to ask you about a bit about. You said Kamala Harris may not be great. I don't know if what your personal feeling is or what the editorial board's personal feeling is, but Kamala Harris has been part of an administration. And I'm just not leading you here, and I'm not making a campaign commercial. I am, though, following up on the Kamala Harris may not be that great. She's part of an administration that has overseen an economy coming out of COVID, which was made far worse by Donald Trump. That is the envy of the world, as you said yesterday. The Wall Street Journal said the next president will inherit a remarkable economy, a remarkably strong economy. You look at us militarily, relative to the rest of the world, stronger than ever. You look at Kamala Harris's economic policy. She's talking about tax cuts for small business owners, for entrepreneurs, for first-time home buyers, and you can go on and on. She's in her closing speeches, instead of talking about executing political opponents, she's talking about consensus, compromise, moving to the center, bringing people that may disagree with her to the center, to the table, to talk and to forge consensus. Do you expect more than that? I guess I should say.
No, look, you make a good point, and I don't disagree with a lot of what you say, but Kamala Harris's economic policies are certainly better than Donald Trump's, no doubt. Are they, from my perspective, an ideal set of policies? No. Let me just give you a couple of examples. The U.S. right now has a budget deficit that is around 6% of GDP, one of the highest in peacetime. We should not be in a position where it gets any bigger. And although her fiscal policy is less reckless than Donald Trump's, it's not clear to me that she has laid out a kind of particularly prudent fiscal policy. Secondly, and this is something that we've had issues with the Biden administration for the last 4 years, the U.S. has shifted, even under President Biden, to a much more interventionist industrial policy. It has not rolled back some of the tariffs on China and other countries. And we happen to believe that actually free markets and competitive forces are really part of the strength of the U.S. And so are there things that I would want to tweak with the Harris, policy platform? Yes, but in relative terms, you're absolutely right that the threat posed by Donald Trump, I think, is much higher. And one thing that's worth, I think, mentioning is that, because people say this to me the whole time, they say, well, yeah, you're always going on about how dangerous Donald Trump is, but look at the first term. It is possible that he doesn't do all of the things that he says, but supporting a candidate on the basis that they're not going to do what they say they're going to do seems to me to be a somewhat illogical position to take.
Well, especially when you consider that people say, oh, well, he didn't arrest Hillary Clinton. He tried to with 2 attorneys general. They both said no. He tried to arrest Joe Biden 2 weeks before the election. His attorney general Barr said, no, I will not do it. And you are right. I disagree on tariffs. I disagree on deficits. But every economist that I've read, Wall Street Journal wrote this too, says that Donald Trump does far more damage than Kamala Harris. So. All right, thank you so much. Greatly appreciated, editor-in-chief of The Economist, Zanny Minton-Beddoes.
Yeah. I think you all get the point right here. So my job, again, this is a teaching channel, and my job is really to show you all what's going to happen in your home. And I think that it is important that you have a savings put away, because if you're not, let me tell you something. Whoever becomes the president of the United States and gets sworn in January, something bad is going to happen. And every president have something that tests him or her that first few weeks or few months. COVID tested Trump, even though it didn't come until while he was campaigning for his life to stay in that seat. Ukraine tested Biden. Both Russia and Ukraine tested. The housing market tested Barack Obama, even though it was happening before he got in there. So you have to understand that something is going to test the new person. It could be a natural disaster. It could be a war or potential war against us. It could be some type of a new virus that's going to hit. I would not wish this position on anybody. And whatever happens while you are in office, you choose to sit in that seat because you wanted that power. Now you've got to help us fix it. So this is why if y'all ain't praying for whoever sits in that seat, then I don't know what kind of Christian you are if you're not going to pray for the one in that seat. Because believe it or not, many Christians couldn't pray for Barack, not Obama, even though he's one of them. They couldn't pray for Trump because he was Trump. And Christians refused to pray for him. But they'll pray for the peace of Jerusalem, a place they've never been. And they don't know nothing about Netanyahu, which is a fool. Yahoo is a fool. So if you can't pray for whoever's going to sit up in that seat, my concern is on Judgment Day, what God going to say about you. That's my concern. All right. I see you all comments. Look like you all are in here fighting over something. I don't know why y'all in here fighting. John Sales, inflation is decreasing slowly as it should, unfortunately for the people. And John, I was reading some of your comments and I was enjoying it. I like reading, especially comments based off of y'all's experience and where you work and what have you. You said also, in theory, tariffs create jobs, offshore jobs, right? My company went offshore, laid off many U.S. workers. So this is a testimony, and this is based off a true experience. All right, so that was good. Lakeisha says, I still do not like that they will transition children and take them away from their parents if the parents disagree. If our money is fine, but children are left with lifelong problems, I can't handle it. Yeah, me too. Trying to deport millions of undocumented immigrants is going to be an impossible task because it will cost billions of dollars a year just to deport just a few of them. He wants to do a mass deportation. Well, that's going to add so many billions of dollars to our deficit that whoever's in Congress is going to have to put a stop to that. Number two, morally, it's going to separate families like he did when he was in office, 2017, I think it was, when they separated those families. And then when they got the backlash from the American people, then he went back and said, let's see if we can. They try to reconnect families, and some of those families never got reconnected. And he said, and they would brag on TV. See, we put these families back together. See, we found these families. Look what I did. I'm a great man. Yeah, you a great man. All right. You were the one who started the fire. Now you want me to celebrate you because you called the fire department. That's what he did. And he wants to do it at a greater, grander scale when he becomes the president. Now, let me tell you again, I don't worry about any of this stuff. I thank God for salvation. I thank God for my hope is in Christ and none else. I live for him and I'll die for him, for it is gain. Whoever is the president, we are going to celebrate the fact that one day it is appointed that we all should die, and then comes the judgment. And if you live right, heaven belongs to you. You will be the one judging those on the earth right now, and you'll also be judging angels. So we're getting too caught up into politics and putting our trust in man. You're leaning on your own understanding, and you're doing the wrong thing. If Donald Trump is in office, I'm still going to make money. I'm still going to go out and do my duty as an ambassador for Christ and win disciples to him. No matter what he says, no matter what he does, and I may even go live and say, hey, he did something crazy. You all don't worry, be happy, because except the Lord keep the city, then you all are laboring in vain. You all are crying in vain. The Lord has the United States in the palm of his hands. And he has us in his hands for a reason. He has not destroyed us because we are here. His remnants are here. You understand? So we cry over the politics and what men are doing. But the only thing that's happening is that the earth is pregnant. That's all. The earth is pregnant. And she is trembling and she's groaning. And God is saying, push, breathe, earth. The earth is breathing and she's dilating and she's having these pangs. That's all. And the baby is just moving. And you all are in the hospital and you all are, part of the medical staff. That's all. And I think this baby going to get birthed and we're going to be able to rock that baby in our arms. But meanwhile, you got to go through the pangs of what's going on here on the earth. So stop fighting with people you don't know and just ignore. And let's move on to bigger fights. The fight is against Satan, but the fight is not against a person. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We're not fighting against flesh and blood, but against that principality. He is the God of this world. He is the prince of the powers of the air. And his job is to do what he's doing. So your job is to stop being naked and put on the full armor of God. And you start right here, right down here where your feelings are. Down here where the belt is. All right? Put your belt on so your pants won't fall down. And then you can start putting on all these other pieces. And don't forget the sword in your mouth, all right? And all these things your vital organs are protected in the front because there is no clothing that you should put on in the back. Paul did not bring in no back brace, no back pillow, no massage chair. No, because if you are worried about your back, that means you running. And you should be running from the devil. Right? That song says, I beat the devil running and I'm so glad. Why are you beating the devil running? You shouldn't be running with the devil or from the devil. You should be running to him. Run into the fire. Be a first responder. And when the towers was falling, they was running into danger. That's what you should be doing. Running into danger. That means you're trying to win a soul. The scripture says he that wins a soul is wise. That Greek word for winneth is snatch. That means somebody's in the street and they're getting ready to get run over by a truck, and you put yourself in harm's way to run out there and become a martyr by saving a man's life. You understand? So he that snatches a soul is wise. That is our job. Run into danger, all right, and rescue as many as you can. That is the movie. What is that movie by Steven Spielberg about the Jews? Who's that? Hitler, not Hitler. What's his name? Schindler's List. Notice at the end, he was trying to save as many Jews as possible. And when they said, all right, that's enough, and he was like, there's got to be one more. There's got to be one. I could do more. And when I saw that movie for the first time, my tears started rolling down, and the music is playing. And he said, there's got to be one more. And I said, wow, message. That's who we should be as believers. You know, don't just get comfortable because you won one soul to the Lord and that's your Boy Scout duty of the day. No, you keep fighting the good fight of faith until the day you took your last breath. There are people on their deathbed who win more souls than you all who got the activities of your limbs. You know, they're on their deathbed and winning souls. All right, so we should be acting like Schindler and said, there's got to be one more. Before I go to bed, there's got to be one more person I can encourage and prepare them for the war or the inclement weather or the disease or pestilence that's getting ready to come in 2025. All right? Something is coming. We do know that. And stop listening to these prophets, these fakers, because they ain't been saying nothing all year because they learned their lesson in 2020. All these lying prophets were saying Trump is going to get in. None of them are prophesying today. But watch next week. Watch how close we get. Some lying prophet is going to come out. More than likely, it's going to be Brian's song, Carnality, is going to lead the pack and said, I had a dream and God told me, he told me by dawn, but the Greek word for by dawn is Kamala. So he told me Kamala will be, and then I heard do not trump the name Kamala, and I heard Trump. See, because he's looking at the stats, he's looking at CNN, and he's looking at the report. The Lord says Trump, do not trump Kamala's name, but he's saying Trump. Watch him, y'all. Watch him. He gonna spin this thing, and y'all, especially women, gonna give him all of your rent money. I'm so sick of you. Thank you, God. Thank you for your people. I love them, and I know they love me back. Ooh, and we love you. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your care and your protection. Dispatch your angels as you always do. Woo! It feels so good to know that you love us. I see you for Sunday school. Saturday. More likely it'll be a pre-recorded. But I see you tomorrow for Sunday school. And then Sunday, we're going to do a movie night on Patreon. Sign up. We're going to talk about money. All right? Stuff that you may not even knew about. All right? This is the weekend of the economy. I might even put up another video on the economy. And then we'll go back to Monday and wash, rinse, and repeat. Okay? All right, take care, y'all. I don't know what's going on here. My cold is gone, but my body is weak, and I guess it did all that fighting, and it can't shake this. All right? But I'm gonna be all right because y'all praying for me. I love y'all. Take care.
Fellas, does it seem like you can't get a good woman? Ladies, wonder why you can't keep a man? Then read The 4 Women That Men Desire, Volume 1, by Sirwalterj to figure out how to break the cycle. Go to Amazon.com to get your copy today.